Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sara Wiseman. Welcome to Spiritual Psychic. Today, we're working on the idea of gathering your mind. They just call it gather your mind, and it's this idea of looking at our thoughts and deciding what's of value or not for us right now in this moment. Some of you know I teach quite a few groups online regularly. I teach the Spiritual Psychic group, which teaches the core basics, the foundational basics of spiritual intuition. And I also teach a group called Sacred Circle. And just the other day, we worked on this exercise where we wrote down, and you can try this now if you want. We wrote down all the things we were thinking about in our minds. And I just had everyone do kind of a brain dump of all the to-do lists or worries or memories or errands or future projections, just like everything that we could get out. And as you might expect, it was really quite a jumble. I think I had on mine like pick up a cake for someone's birthday and call the accountant and go to work out and meditate, and then these bigger personal worries, what's going to happen around this, what's going to happen here, and then this sort of veering into the past, like, oh, what was that all about? And then just like compounding everything. And so on the paper, I think we wrote for about 10 minutes. We just brain dumped every single thought or memory or impression that could come. And after we looked at it, we realized how, this idea of monkey mind, the mind just jumping around like a pinball machine without a lot of focus. And so how do we find the through line of consciousness? And so that's what we're talking about today. Once you realize that you can't really stop your mind, ego, personality from creating the monkey mind, that's kind of its job, that's what it does. But we can instead view things from soul perspective and get a more clear understanding of what's actually happening. And so again, we're not trying to fight the mind. We're not even trying to still or quiet the mind. We're letting the mind do what the mind does, and then we're just kind of observing what's correct, what's incorrect, what has value, what's just there because it hasn't been released yet. We just kind of look at it all. So I do invite you to take a moment and in a journal or piece of paper, just write down everything on your mind, and then just kind of piece through and see what's actually meaningful or useful to us. One thing that also came up in this group exercise that we did, people commented, and I also found this, is that, I have a pretty darn quiet life, I would say, compared to most people. But even for me, there were lots and lots and lots of things in my mind that I didn't even need to be dealing with. Like, that's not even mine to think about, or I'm not responsible for that, or this is something maybe I've been doing for a while, some activity I'm in or something, and it's like, I don't even want to do that anymore. Like, so this idea of how we fill our day with every kind of distraction, it's just more, jogging on the hamster wheel. Whereas if we take all that to-do stuff out, we have again this true through line for what's really important. I'm just going to read a little bit. Gabriel messages. We'll read a couple. Gather your mind. The past is not worthy of your focus. Be grateful, but do not live there. You cannot have it back, just as you cannot grasp air in your fist. The future is not worthy of your concern. You already know that what is going to happen is what is going to happen. And while you have dreams and desires, so do all the other souls in the universe. You are manifesting or creating as part of the collective, as part of collective soul, so that what happens will happen based on the dreams and desires of all beings, based on the dimensional reality you are living in. We say you can put in your request, but be prepared for surprises. Based on the dimensional reality you're living in, and to me this means that, people who have lived a fairly unexamined life are probably living in one kind of dimension, and people who are doing any level of inner work are living in a different level of awareness. And there's zero judgment on where people are, because people just are where they are. We don't really start at the same starting point in a lifetime. A lot of us are coming in from, a certain number or level of past lives where we've done a lot of stuff before, and a lot of us are coming in from a different, we might be newer souls to the equation, or we might not have come around as many times. And so it's really unimportant to make any kind of judgment of like what level you're at. Like it just doesn't matter. There's no one you're in competition with except yourself, and you're not in competition with yourself. So you can just let any kind of judgment go about who's a high vibration or who's low vibration. It's unimportant. Okay, I'm going to keep going because these are pretty directly related. Focus on now. Gather your mind from memories of the past. Resist fantasizing or future planning. Focus on what is actually happening. And from here, you can see where to go. When you work with now, you unlock the treasure chest of every clue you need to notice. From now, it's easy to see what is flowing and your part in that flow. You do not need to do anything except sit back and watch as the universe brings it all to you. Gather your mind from the far reachings of past and the future, and be with what is in front of you, right now, in this moment. All your answers unfold from here. You do not have to seek further. It is easy. I think right now in our current culture, environment, collective awareness, there's a lot of this combination of blaming or being the victim of unfortunate past. And this is being brought to light as it should be. There's a lot of talk around, say, toxic people or narcissists or estrangement or going no contact or freeing yourself from a bully or these types of ideas. So that's fabulous. We are having the awareness of injustice. These are just personal injustices. Of course, there's the larger systemic injustices. So we're seeing those and we're calling that out. So we don't want to forget those, because if we forget them, we lose the lesson. But also we don't want to live there, because already from noticing what's happened, from calling it out, we are already moving forward into a different reality. So let's say on a personal level, you were severely bullied by someone in your childhood, and maybe this affected you enormously. And so you go through the process of self-awareness, and you become aware of that. You become aware of how that affected you. You become aware of the patterns that you've put into place. And at some level, you're probably having sort of some identities as a victim, or identities as a very angry person, or some different identities that come from, the different ways we feel when we have these really uncomfortable or really, really difficult situations. All of that is totally valid. And the lesson that you learned by all of this examining, and by all of this understanding that what happened to you, for example, was incorrect and wrong, and your ability now to stand up for yourself as a person deserving of much better treatment, or perfect treatment, really, and as a person who stands up now for all the people that have been bullied in the way that you were. That's where the now part is. That's where the focus is. It's not in rehashing the past over and over and over. It's taking what you learned and applying it to now. And potentially, if you're in a place that you can, you're reaching back, or you're reaching to the place where people who are experiencing that level of experience, you can bring them forward. You can share what you did, or how you felt about it, or how you dealt with it, or how you came through it. So you're in a place of, instead of victim, you're a place of survivor. And this is where the nowness is like, okay, yes, that happened. And I don't make light of it. And also, from my perspective of dealing with so many people with really difficult situations, and also in my own life of having some really difficult situations, I really feel that most of us who are at any level of adulthood have come through, most of us have come through things that no one should be forced to face, regardless of the level of wealth or success or privilege you supposedly have in a culture. These personal sufferings, I don't think anyone escapes. I don't think anyone escapes. So we want to just move our minds, we want to gather our minds out of the past and out of memory, and look at, okay, well, what is now? What things are actually flowing in my life now? What's actually happening and moving? What actually needs my attention? And this gives you a really different answer, because potentially, if you've done a lot of healing, therapy, processing, all the ways you can do healing, it may be that you don't require any more healing at this exact moment. You may be sort of done with healing for now, until you have a chance to integrate all the healing you've already done. Or maybe that's not true for you. Maybe you're ready to dive deep into some, like the next stage of healing, releasing. But this idea that we don't just go back to the past as if it's set in stone, because really all of that's gone. All of that is not right here with us. And so we can ask our body to remember that in this moment, we're safe. Maybe in the next moment we won't be, who knows, but in this moment, we're safe. And in this now, the universe is moving things into our attention or into our awareness And many of these are these beautiful gifts and these beautiful ways of living, but we have to free our minds from the past in order to even see these. Now, the past is just one part, memory, that's a big one, but also distractions. Like, I don't know, when phones came out, smartphones, I like technology, especially for my age. I like technology, and I was pretty excited. And I'm not sure, at some level, I'm not sure that it's added to our awareness. I think the distraction level of all social media, of all the ways that you're bombarded with emails and texts and notices, I don't think it's very useful. Of all the ways, I've talked about this before, in the past, if you wanted to meet someone, you would call them on the phone or send them a note and say, I'll see you at 11 at the mall, say, when, when they had malls. And you wouldn't say, I'll see you at the north entrance of the mall. I mean, maybe some people would, but you mostly say, I'll see you at the mall at 11. And you just like wander down there. You don't have a phone. You just wander down there, and you know that the magnetic forces of the universe will take your intention, I'll see you at 11, and they will draw you and your friend together at 11 without even stressing or looking or seeking. You'll just be magnetized toward each other. And those of you who've had this experience before technology, like this always works. You always run into the person at the exact time you need to. It's foolproof. Or the event always happens exactly when you need it to. But when your mind is so distracted by, I got to do this, I have this class I have to do, I have this errand, oh, I have to think about the past, I have to work on my healing, I have to worry about my future, oh no, what's happening in politics? The mind is very distractible, and again, it keeps you from that true through line of what's actually unfolding. I also like that they said, be ready for some surprises. So one of the concepts in the first reading was, you can have all your desires and manifesting, but remember, we're only just one little piece of collective soul. It's not like, oh, I'm the most important piece, like I get my demand. It's like, no, we're all creating this reality together based on our dimensional awareness. So you can put in your order, but everyone's putting in their order. And, all of the orders need to be balanced and configured by collective soul to see what happens. And so this is why also this idea of be ready for some surprises. I think a lot of us right now feel somewhat beaten down by the sheer overwhelm of information and ideas and sort of negative energy or negative ideas that are coming through. And so we forget that all of that is chatter. All of that is like this buzzing of nothing. And the universe is working with us as part of collective soul towards this expansion. I think if you look at what's actually, like another way to do this is to take a piece of paper and look at like what's actually happening in your life. And you might look at, say, what happened from 4 months ago. Take a time on your calendar and look at 4 months ago and sort of tune into what was I doing 4 months ago? Who was I hanging out with? What was I thinking about? What was I working on? Where was I living? Where was I working? Who was I in relationship with? How was my body? Just all the things. What was my finances like? Just sort of get a snapshot of yourself then, And then kind of look at like what has changed since then, because chances are it's a lot. It's a lot. And then when you start to notice the things that have changed, maybe you can go back and sort of look at how that's flowing. That piece is unfolding for you. And maybe it unfolded without you being even aware that it was unfolding, potentially. And now here you are 4 months later, and quite a bit of difference. Maybe you were hanging out with a certain group of people or a certain association, and like you're like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Or vice versa. Maybe you weren't doing anything, and then suddenly you're with a group that you enjoy. Maybe your body was doing poorly then and it's better now, or the opposite. Maybe it was better then and it's poorly now. So you're just looking at all the way like this river of flow of change and what's shifted. And as you start to look at those patterns of what shifted, you're kind of like, oh, I'm sort of being moved in this direction. And then you start to work with the universe, like, tell me more. You go into the guides. Explain this to me. Help me figure out, like, is this what's unfolding? Is this where my attention needs to be? And as you let go of all the mind chatter, everything we did in our brain dump, and as you start to focus on, okay, what's happening right now? What's right in front of me? And then as you start to backtrack and look at how much change has happened in a short period of time, you start to get an idea. And it said, what did they said? When you work with now, you unlock the treasure chest of every clue you need to notice. From now, it's easy to see what is flowing and your part in that flow. You do not need to do anything except sit back and watch as the universe brings it all to you. So it's just unfolding. Everybody, thank you. I will be with you next time. Please go to sarawiseman.com. We have signups for next year. Time of this, we have an Entering Stillness retreat that's coming up starting in a couple weeks. And the best place is go to the website, sarawiseman.com, and check it out, because I try and put everything on the front page. Okay, talk to you later. Thank you.